LiveScope has revolutionized bass fishing. It's allowing us now to target bass that have probably never been targeted before. But in today's video, I'm going to share with you guys 3 times that I turn my graphs off to have more success on the water. Anyone that's followed me for any period of time knows how much I love looking at fish on my electronics. My electronics have become part of my identity and kind of given me the opportunity to chase some of the smallmouth that I've had the opportunities to catch. I saw that one on LiveScope. Because all you do is spin around in circles and look at LiveScope. There's a bunch, dude. A ton. Let's start by addressing the obvious here. LiveScope is allowing us to target fish that have never been targeted before, whether that's in the middle of your lake, whether that's fish suspended around pieces of cover that you normally would miss. LiveScope is allowing you the opportunity to target these fish in ways that we never could have without it. But I do believe there's times where turning the electronics off do help you be more successful and effective on the water. Number one time that I'm going to turn my electronics off is anytime I'm fishing something visual or pieces of cover that I can see or know exist in the water. So what that would mean for me is if I'm fishing really clean water, especially when you get up to northern Michigan and you can see into the water 10, 15, 20 plus foot, I don't need those electronics on. I can see what I need to see with my eyes. Whether I'm fishing a break, whether I'm fishing pieces of cover, whether I'm fishing rock piles, if I can see it with my eyes, if I can see the contour lines with my eyes, I don't need those graphs on. Are there times where maybe I would catch a fish using my electronics that's suspended out away from the boat? Probably. But I think when you have your graphs on in really clean water, those fish are already super pressured. So by turning your graphs off, you're just reducing the pressure that those fish are feeling. A perfect example of this is when we were up north this spring with Mr. Caleb Bell, and we had really good success fishing away from the bank, targeting pieces of cover and targeting contour changes that we could visually see with our eyes. Now you saw a lot of guys going down the bank with their electronics, kind of trying to scope fish. But what we found to be more effective was turning our graphs off, turning the trolling motor down to 2, and slowly covering these high percentage areas. A really specific example of this was actually when Caleb caught a 7-pounder, was we were targeting this point that came out into the lake, and we could see the shallow flatware broke into deep water. So we positioned ourselves in the dark water, cast up onto the flat, and target little dark spots that we were able to visually see. Well, Caleb made a really long cast with a hair jig, and he brought it past a dark spot and ended up catching that 7-pounder. And I did something very similar the next day, fishing along the break with a little swim bait and just slow rolling it. And with our electronics off, we were just creating less pressure on those fish. We were fishing areas where we knew fish were living. And because we were able to use our eyes, and because we were able to reduce the pressure on those bass, we were able to get bites that other guys weren't able to get. This video is brought to you in partnership with Magic Spoon. And Magic Spoon is basically cereal reinvented. This is taking you back to your childhood roots with flavors like peanut butter, frosted, fruity, and cocoa. Now, those of us that are anglers, we get up early, we wake up early, we're looking for a very good option, a wholesome option to get our day started right. Magic Spoon's great because it has 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and 4 to 5 net grams of carbs in each serving. So it's a better option to get your day started right and allow you to start quickly. And my personal favorite is the peanut butter, and not only does it take me back to my childhood, but I've been working on cutting down those carbs and sugars, so this is a great option to get me out the door really quickly. Now, if you guys are interested in picking up any of these products, go to magicspoon.com/benfish or use code benfish at checkout. And Magic Spoon's so confident that you guys are going to enjoy this product that they have a 100% money back guarantee. So go to magicspoon.com/benfish or use code benfish to get $5 off your first Magic Spoon order. Scenario number 2, where I'm going to turn my electronics off, is when I'm fishing ultra-pressured bodies of water. Now, I go back to Lake St. Clair on this because this is where I've seen it the most, but fish are getting smart to LiveScope. Fish are getting smart to forward-facing sonar. So by reducing your pressure, reducing your presence, you're able to trigger fish that wouldn't otherwise bite. Obviously, in clean water, it makes a big difference to reduce the pressure, but when you're fishing areas that is getting a lot of fishing pressure, and a lot of guys are burning those fish with their LiveScope and with their electronics, just reducing your impact can trigger more fish to bite. A couple years back, I hosted a tournament on Lake St. Clair, just really a big get-together. And what we noticed was that on day 1 when we were out there, fish were a little bit less finicky. Day 2 we were out there, they became a little bit more lethargic and nervous around the boat. And by the time that we were out there for the tournament, if you had your electronics on, you were getting half the bites that you could get with your electronics off. Actually, Nathan was one that we talked about this with at the end of the event, because him and Will Daniels had fished with their electronics off, making really long casts with a hair jig and a spy bait, and they were able to trigger fish that other guys in that same area weren't able to catch. And I really believe a big factor in that is not only long casts, but not having your electronics on. As you're fishing these more and more pressured lakes, as these fish are getting smarter and smarter and smarter, turning your electronics off, especially when you know where you're fishing, can be a really key factor. Another time that I've seen this be really effective is when I'm fishing giant flats. You can turn your electronics off and still have similar success, and sometimes even better success, by not necessarily targeting individual fish, but covering flats with your lures. And I know it sounds crazy, right? You're just going out fishing, but by turning your electronics off, especially if you know the area that you're in and the productive lines that you need to be on to catch fish, turning your electronics off minimizes your presence there. It kind of lets you be more stealth and get fish to bite that would otherwise be a little bit more wary, a little bit more line shy, boat shy, and get fish to bite that other guys can't put in the boat. The third time that I'm going to turn my electronics off is when I know where bass are located on a sweet spot. So this for me is really, really important, especially as I get later into the season or in the middle of the year when fish are getting pressured by other boats and I know where fish are located, I have a line, I can turn my electronics off because I don't have to scope every single fish. So if I'm drop shotting a deep reef and I know that fish are along this specific portion of the reef, I have basically my line triangulated, I can turn my electronics off because I don't have to see the fish coming over to my bait. When those fish are on bottom, when they're on a sweet spot, I go back to just those natural fishing instincts. And this is why I think fishing without LiveScope and getting to know how to fish without this piece of technology is so important. Because when you turn it off, it takes you back to just your standard days out on the water fishing, right? You have to understand how to attack a specific area, how to build a line, how to understand where fish are located. But when you have an area where fish are located towards the bottom of the water column, and you can fish it without your graphs on, it's going to allow you to catch more fish. A time that I can look back on and say I know that I caught more fish because my LiveScope was off when I'm fishing close to the bottom was out on Saginaw Bay. I had these fish targeted on a deep water rock pile. I knew where my line was, and I knew that I could drift it in a certain path to trigger fish to bite. Well, me having my electronics on made no sense because it didn't necessarily offer me a better opportunity to trigger fish to bite. I didn't have to look at them. I didn't have to know they were there. I just knew that this was a high percentage area. I had already graphed it. I had already understood how the area is set up. By turning my electronics off, I was able to fish this area as equally effectively as if I had it on and catch a bunch of fish. Now, I believe by turning off your LiveScope, you're actually able to trick more fish than if you have it on. As you catch a fish, as you burn a fish with your graph on, these fish are going to become smarter and smarter and smarter. So the more times that you can find opportunities to turn your graphs off, the better off you're going to be. Now understand, if you guys have watched my video for any period of time, I love my electronics. I've had Panoptix in some form or shape since 2015. I've used it basically from the PS31 all the way up to the LS34. So I've had all of the models of LiveScope, and I'm understanding how it can be an effective tool to help you catch more fish. But I still want you to take the opportunities to look for ways where you can turn it off. Look for ways that you can just go fishing, and look for times where you found to be more successful with having your electronics off to help you catch more fish. I hope this video is going to help you guys. I hope you're going to be able to take this information, go to your bodies of water, and be more successful. And if you have forward-facing sonar, maybe give you something to think about to consider turning those electronics off when maybe they're not ultra necessary. Now, if you guys want to see some videos where I actually catch fish using my LiveScope, check this video out right here. If you want to subscribe to the channel, you enjoy this style of content, and you're a fisherman and want to see more of it, hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care, tight lines. God bless. Pursue your passion.